But first, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Yes, this week, Americans gathered around the table to give thanks and fight about politics with their mask-wearing Aunt Karens. And of course, it is also the same week that the president ceremonially pardoned, as per tradition, a pair of Thanksgiving turkeys. Let's see how that went, hey?
You could say even this harder than getting a ticket to the Renaissance tour or Britney's tour. She's down in, it's kind of warm in Brazil right now.
Okay, that went about as well as we would have expected. And you know what else is going well? And about as well as could be expected? Joe Biden's poll numbers. Now, that's no secret to you and me, but here's something interesting. The Democrat-friendly media in the U.S. is also starting to wake up. Have a look at what happened the other day on NBC.
Let's start with the bottom line here. President Biden, what is his job approval rating? We measure it now at 40%, with 57% disapproving. The significance, that is the lowest President Biden has ever measured in our poll in terms of job approval. And just look at the sea change from the start of this year. Remember, early this year, Democrats coming off a strong 2022 midterm. He was almost even. Now he's 17 points underwater on this question.
And you know how they say foreign policy doesn't really move polls? Well, that's also beginning to change.
We mentioned the drop in that approval rating and the connection to the Middle East, and here it is. On foreign policy, 33% approve of Joe Biden's job performance. Just in September, we asked the same question, and it was 41-53.
These numbers surprised our own pollsters, Steve, with one saying he cannot remember a time when a foreign entanglement that didn't involve U.S. troops had the capacity to transform the electorate, and that's not the case.
Gosh, can those guys calm down a little bit? Meanwhile, over at CNN, check it out. They've practically called the election a year early.
The country has soured on Joe Biden. There's just not another way to put it. According to our latest CNN poll conducted by SSRS, a national poll gives us this snapshot in time. Biden's approval rating is 39% in our poll. 61% disapprove of the job he's doing.
Oof, that's going to leave a mark. And Trump is getting over the hump of being seen as the likely GOP nominee, but also as an unelectable candidate in the general election, as this poll of crucial New Hampshire voters revealed.
Look at this movement. Donald Trump back in September, 51% of likely Republican primary voters said he had the best chance of winning a general election. That's now up to 57%. So he's up 6 points on electability.
Okay, that's two major left-wing networks. But what about the granddaddy of them all, MSNBC? Are they on board with this program too? Well, not yet. They still think Trump is worse than Hitler and Mussolini.
A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler and the use of the terminology like vermin and the drive that those men had towards autocracy and dictatorship. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous, and that is he has no philosophy he believes in.
Trump more dangerous than Hitler and Mussolini. Well, anyway, 2 out of 3 networks ain't bad, and MSNBC will always be crazy. Though it is interesting to me that as the panic over the possibility of a Trump return grows, so too does the hysteria. And this, I think, is what is important. It is clear there is an absolute change of tone in the way the U.S. media is dealing with this. But also, on the other side, on the Republican side, it is important to remember that it's not all good news for Trump either. For one thing, it's still very early. We've got almost a year to go to Election Day. Peak too soon, and your support can recede, and a lot can happen over the next 12 months. Plus, how many times in the past, let's be serious about this, has the GOP managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? But there is also another problem here, And that is this: especially younger voters who are far more likely to be useful idiots for Hamas and other left-wing radical causes, well, they drive much of Biden's negative ratings, and they're coming from the fact that he is not radical or revolutionary enough for them and is still supporting, say, Israel, rather than throwing that country to the wolves. These guys aren't coming out for Trump, even if they're not going to vote for Biden. Now, of course, in all of this, the White House maintains that everything is fine. The Washington Post, another stalwart of the Democrats, reported this week that the Biden campaign was, quote, working to ease Democratic anxiety over re-election chances, unquote. And according to this report, former Chief of Staff Ron Klain swatted down any thoughts about change. The Post wrote, quote, Klain's rebuttal was swift, recalled one attendee at this conference who spoke on the condition of anonymity to share candid details of the private event. The president is the party's nominee, Klain said, and a strong nominee at that. There is no backup plan, unquote. Well, that's what the Democrats are saying, but the polls and the voters are saying otherwise. Something's up, and all these public discussions, often in very Democrat-friendly media, about the polls are, I think, setting the stage for some other discussions about the president's future that are, for the moment, taking place very much behind closed doors. Now, how much longer they stay behind those closed doors remains to be seen.